The grand sapphire hall was glowing in gold and ivory. Crystal chandeliers shimmered overhead. A live string quartet played softly near the altar. Fresh white roses lined the aisle like a runway for perfection. And Lena Carter stood in the shadows. Not because she wasn't invited, but because she didn't belong. At least, that's what her family had made her believe her whole life. She adjusted her lilac-purple dress, the only expensive thing she owned. She had saved for 3 months to buy it, not to impress anyone, just to look like she wasn't falling apart. Across the hall, her younger sister, Vanessa, looked like royalty.
Custom gown.
Diamond necklace. Perfect hair. Perfect smile. The kind of woman who never struggled, never failed, never disappointed anyone. Vanessa caught her eye briefly and looked away. That hurt more than anything. Lena. Her aunt's voice sliced through the music. She turned, forcing a polite smile. Yes, Auntie? The older woman scanned her from head to toe. You came alone again? There it was. The question disguised as concern. Yes. A hum of disapproval followed. At your age, dear, you should really be settling down. Lena nodded quietly. They never asked how she was. Only who she was dating. Or why she wasn't married. Or why she had thrown away that powerful man. That man. The whispers still followed her everywhere. Is it true he's dangerous? I heard he runs things illegally. They say powerful men like that don't love, they own. They were talking about Kang Joon-Woo. They said his name like a curse. But when Lena thought of him, she remembered something else. Warm hands. Silent protection. The way he would stand behind her at events, not speaking, just watching the room like it belonged to him. Because it did. She had walked away from him 6 months ago. Not because he hurt her, but because she was afraid of becoming a shadow in his empire. Afraid of waking up one day and realizing she had no life outside of his world. So she left. And tonight, standing in this glittering hall filled with polite cruelty, she wasn't sure which world was colder. The ceremony began. Everyone stood. Lena remained at the edge, clapping softly as Vanessa walked down the aisle on their father's arm. Their father looked proud, radiant. The same father who once told Lena, "You're too stubborn for any man to keep." She swallowed the memory down. The vows were beautiful. Perfect. Applause thundered. And then came the reception. The lights dimmed into a soft golden glow. Laughter filled the air. Champagne glasses clinked like tiny celebrations of success. Lena tried to slip toward a corner table when her mother intercepted her. "You're not sitting there," her mother whispered sharply. "That table is for business partners." "I wasn't." "Please, Lena. Tonight is important. Don't draw attention. Don't draw attention." As if she ever had. She nodded and moved further back. Near the staff entrance. Near the waiters. Invisible. That's where she fit best. Then it happened. The best man took the microphone. Tall, smug, too confident. "Let's raise a glass to Vanessa," he said with a grin. Smart, beautiful, and clearly the successful sister. The crowd laughed lightly. Lena froze. Unlike some people who chase bad decisions and dangerous men, more laughter. Not light this time. Louder. Intentional. Her skin burned. The best man wasn't finished. But hey, we all need a lesson in what not to do, right? He lifted his glass in her direction. Several guests turned. Some pretending not to stare. Others not bothering to hide it. Her sister didn't correct him. Didn't interrupt. Didn't defend her. Vanessa simply sipped her champagne. And smiled. That smile shattered something inside Lena. Her chest tightened so violently she thought she might actually collapse. The music resumed. The party continued. As if nothing happened. As if she hadn't just been publicly dissected. She stepped outside before anyone could see the tears forming. The night air hit her skin. Cold. Sharp. She inhaled deeply, but it didn't help. Why did it still hurt? She was used to this. Used to being compared. Used to being lesser. Used to being the mistake child. But tonight felt different. Tonight they made her a joke. She reached for her phone with shaking fingers. Scrolled past names that didn't matter. Friends who would say, ignore them. Friends who would say, you're stronger than this. She didn't want strength. She wanted protection. Her thumb hovered over one name, a name she had deleted once, blocked twice. But somehow it was still memorized in her mind. She dialed. One ring. He answered.
Of course he did. His voice was calm, deep,
controlled. Lena. 6 months. And he still said her name like it belonged to him. She tried to speak. Nothing came out. He didn't hang up. He just waited. Because he knew her. Finally, her voice broke into a whisper. Can you come get me? Silence. The kind of silence that carries weight.
Then,
send me the location. No anger. No questions. No hesitation. Just certainty. The line disconnected. Lena stood there, heart racing. She didn't know what he would do. She didn't know how he would arrive. But she knew one thing. She had just invited the most powerful man she had ever known into a room full of people who humiliated her. And when Kang Joon-Woo decided to show up, nothing ever stayed the same. The skyline of Seoul shimmered like a field of diamonds beneath the night sky. From the floor-to-ceiling windows of the top penthouse office, the city looked small, controlled,
owned.
And in many ways it was. Inside that office stood Kang Joon-Woo, immaculate black suit, silver cufflinks, expression carved from stone. In front of him, a man was kneeling. Not by choice. You had one instruction, Jun Wu said calmly, reviewing a tablet in his hand. The kneeling man trembled. I can explain. Jun Wu didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. His silence was more terrifying than shouting. The air in the room felt thin. His men stood behind him, straight-backed and silent, waiting for a signal. Then, his phone vibrated. One vibration. Private line. There were only 3 people in the world who had that number. His eyes flicked down. Unknown caller ID. But he knew. His jaw tightened slightly. He lifted the phone. Lena. Her name left his mouth differently than every other word he spoke.
Softer.
Lower. Like something precious he refused to break. There was no background music on her end. Just breathing. Unsteady breathing. He didn't speak again. He listened. Then she whispered, "Can you come get me?" 3 seconds. That's how long the room remained frozen after the line disconnected. 3 seconds before everything shifted. Jun Wu slowly lowered the phone. The kneeling man was still pleading. But Jun Wu wasn't hearing him anymore. Because in that single sentence, he heard humiliation. He heard pride swallowed. He heard that she had finally reached a breaking point. And Lena Carter was not a woman who asked for help easily. He walked toward the window. The city lights reflected in his eyes. 6 months. 6 months since she walked away. 6 months since she stood in this very office and told him, "I don't want to become another thing you own." The memory was still sharp. He had watched her pack a single suitcase. He hadn't stopped her. Because if she stayed out of fear, it would never be love. So he let her go. But he never stopped watching. Her boutique lease renewal? Handled anonymously. The landlord who tried to increase her rent unfairly? Disappeared from negotiations within 24 hours. The competitor who copied her designs? Quietly bankrupt. She never knew. He made sure she never would. Because protection didn't require applause. Behind him, his right-hand man, Min Jae, cleared his throat carefully. "Boss." Jun Wu turned. The temperature in the room dropped instantly. "Prepare the car."
That was all he said.
No explanation. No raised tone. Min Jae nodded immediately. Within seconds, the energy of the entire floor shifted. Phones moved. Commands were relayed. Security cleared routes. 3 black luxury sedans were summoned from the underground garage. Because when Kang Joon-Woo moved, the city adjusted. As he buttoned his suit jacket, Min Jae spoke cautiously. "Is this about her?" Jun-Woo paused. His gaze flicked sideways. "Sharp. Dangerous. Cancel my meetings." "Yes, boss." "And find out who is hosting the wedding at Grand Sapphire Hall tonight." Min-jae's fingers moved quickly across his phone. Bride, Lena Carter. Groom, Daniel Huang. Father of the groom owns Huang Construction. A beat of silence. Ah, Jun Wu murmured.
He knew that name.
Huang Construction had been trying to secure one of his redevelopment contracts for months. Desperate. Eager. Too eager. Jun Wu's lips curved faintly. Not a smile. A warning. Interesting. Min-jae swallowed. Because that tone meant someone's night was about to change permanently. Downstairs, the convoy engines purred to life. The city traffic parted almost instinctively as the vehicles merged onto the highway. Inside the back seat, Jun Wu stared ahead. Expression unreadable. But his thoughts were anything but calm. He pictured her face when she was angry. The way her brows furrowed when she was fighting tears. The way she always pretended she didn't need anyone. And, tonight, she called him. Not a friend. Not her family. Him. The man she said she didn't want to be tied to. The man she claimed scared her. The man she walked away from. His thumb brushed lightly over the edge of his phone. She never deleted his number. That meant something. It always had. Min-jae's voice interrupted gently. Do you want us to clear the venue? No. The word was immediate.
Cold.
Precise. I will walk in. Min-jae hesitated. Alone. Jun Woo's eyes darkened. They humiliated her publicly. A long pause. So, I will answer publicly. A chill ran through the car. Because, when he chose to make a statement, it was never subtle. The vehicle slowed as they approached the grand sapphire hall. Through the tinted glass, he could see the golden lights inside. Laughter. Celebration. Ignorance. He adjusted his cufflinks once. Not because he was nervous, but because he was composed. There's a difference. 6 months ago, he might have stormed in with fury. Tonight, he would be calm, controlled,
Precise.
because revenge wasn't what he wanted.
Respect was.
For her. The car stopped. One of his men stepped out and opened the door. The night air carried faint music and distant laughter. Jun Wu stepped onto the pavement.
Tall.
Immovable, eyes fixed on the entrance. Min-jae leaned slightly closer and spoke in a low voice. Boss, should we prepare for resistance? Jun Woo's gaze never left the doors. No one there is strong enough to resist me. A beat. And if they try, they will regret it. The doors of the hall stood only 20 feet away. On the other side, a woman who finally said she needed him. His jaw tightened just slightly. Not in anger. In resolve. Because tonight wasn't about power. It wasn't about business. It wasn't about reputation. It was about one question echoing in his mind. Who made her feel small enough to call me? And, whoever it was about to understand why the city whispered his name carefully. Inside the grand sapphire hall, laughter flowed as easily as the champagne. The humiliation had already been absorbed into the background noise. People moved on quickly when it wasn't their dignity on display. Vanessa was posing for photos, bouquet in hand, head tilted perfectly for the camera. The groom's family mingled confidently, shaking hands, making connections, measuring status. No one noticed the sudden shift outside. Not at first. It began with headlights. 3 black luxury sedans pulling up in synchronized precision. Valet attendants froze. Guests near the entrance turned subtly. One by one, car doors opened. Men stepped out first. Tailored black suits. Earpieces. Calm faces that scanned the area with military efficiency. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just controlled. And then, he stepped out. Kang Joon-Woo. The night seemed to still around him.
Tall. Sharp.
Impeccably dressed. His coat fell perfectly against his frame, every movement deliberate, like a man who never rushed because the world adjusted to him. Inside the hall, the music was mid-song when the main doors opened. Not slammed. Not dramatic. Just opened. But the effect was immediate. The string quartet faltered. A violin screeched slightly off-key. Conversation slowed. Then stopped. A ripple of recognition spread from the front to the back of the hall like a silent wave of shock. Whispers began. Is that? It can't be. Why is he here? The groom's father turned toward the entrance. The color drained from his face. He knew that face. Every powerful businessman in the city knew that face. And they knew better than to cross it. Kang Joon-Woo didn't smile. He didn't acknowledge the staring. He walked forward, one step at a time, measured, unbothered. His men remained near the entrance, not swarming, not threatening, just present enough to remind everyone that this wasn't a coincidence. This was intentional. The best man, the one who made the speech, let out a nervous laugh. Wow, this must be some kind of mistake. No one laughed with him, because they could feel it. The air was heavier,
Thicker.
like a storm had quietly entered the building. Across the room, near the side doors, Lena stood frozen. She hadn't expected him to come this fast. She hadn't expected this. He didn't search frantically. He didn't call her name. His eyes scanned the room once. Just once. And then they found her. It was as if the noise dissolved the moment their gazes locked. Everything else blurred. 6 months of distance. 6 months of silence. And yet nothing about the way he looked at her had changed. Not possession. Not anger.
Just certainty.
He resumed walking. Guests instinctively stepped aside. Not because he pushed them, but because presence like his demanded space. The groom tried to recover the atmosphere. Music, he whispered urgently to the band. But the pianist's hands were trembling. Because everyone understood something unspoken. If a man like Kang Joon-Woo walks into a wedding uninvited, it is not social. It is serious. He stopped 2 feet in front of Lena, close enough for only her to hear him clearly. Up close, his composure was even more intimidating. But his eyes weren't cold when they looked at her. They were assessing, searching, checking for damage. You called, he said quietly. Her throat tightened. Yes. The room strained to listen. Vanessa stepped forward, irritation barely masked. This is inappropriate, she said sharply. This is my wedding. Jun Wu did not look at her. He kept his gaze on Lena. Are you hurt? 2 words.
Soft.
Controlled. Protective. Lena shook her head slightly, though her eyes glistened. That was enough. But not for him. He lifted his hand, slowly, not touching her at first. Just hovering near her cheek, as if asking silent permission. She didn't pull away. His knuckles brushed lightly against her skin. He saw the faint smear of mascara, the tightness in her jaw, the effort she was making not to break. His jaw hardened. Then, finally, he turned and looked at the room. It wasn't a dramatic glare. It was worse. It was quiet, deliberate, evaluating. The best man shifted uncomfortably. The groom swallowed. The bride crossed her arms defensively. Is there a problem? Vanessa asked, her tone edged with annoyance. Now Jun Wu looked at her. Fully. And when he did, the confidence drained from her posture. Which one of you, he said calmly, thought it was acceptable to use her for entertainment? The silence was suffocating. No one moved. No one volunteered. The best man attempted a chuckle. It was just a joke. Jun Woo's gaze snapped to him. The chuckle died instantly. A joke, Jun Wu repeated softly. He took 1 slow step toward the man. Explain the punchline. The room felt 10 degrees colder. The best man's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Because humiliation is never funny when you're forced to explain it. Vanessa stepped in again, defensive now. You're overreacting. She's always been sensitive. That did it. Lena felt the shift in him. It wasn't explosive. It was precise. He returned to her side, removed his coat smoothly, and draped it over her shoulders. The gesture was intimate, intentional, a claim made, without shouting. She is not sensitive, he said evenly. She is disrespected. His hand settled lightly at the small of her back, not gripping, just grounding her. And in front of the entire elite circle of guests, he delivered the sentence that sealed the night. She leaves with me. Not a question. Not a request. A decision. The groom's father stepped forward cautiously. Mr. Kang, we don't want trouble. Jun Woo's expression didn't change. Then you should have ensured she wasn't humiliated under your roof. The message was clear. This wasn't about ego. This was about accountability. No shouting. No threats. Just controlled dominance. Lena's heart pounded violently. Part of her was embarrassed. Part of her was overwhelmed. But a deeper part, the part that had felt invisible her whole life, felt seen. Chosen. Protected. For once, she wasn't the afterthought. She was the reason the most powerful man in the room had walked in. And everyone knew it. Jun Wu leaned slightly toward her. Are you ready? Her sister stared in disbelief. Her mother looked horrified. The guests whispered furiously. But Lena lifted her chin. And nodded. Yes. And just like that, the entire wedding stopped being about the bride. Because when Kang Joon-Woo turned and guided her toward the doors, every eye followed. Not the diamonds. Not the cake. Not the couple. But the woman who had been humiliated, and the man who answered when she called. The doors hadn't even fully closed behind them when Vanessa's voice rang out. Lena, stop. The entire hall held its breath. Jun Wu paused mid-step. Not because Vanessa commanded attention, but because Lena's body tensed beside him. Slowly he turned. The room was no longer celebrating. It was watching. Vanessa walked forward, her white gown sweeping across the marble floor like wounded pride. You are not going to turn my wedding into one of your dramatic episodes, she said, her smile brittle. Lena's chest tightened. Dramatic episodes. That's what they always called her pain. Jun Woo's hand remained steady at Lena's back. Warm. Grounding. But his eyes darkened. Episode, he repeated softly. Vanessa lifted her chin. You show up with him, with this. She gestured vaguely. Mafia spectacle. A murmur rippled across the guests. The groom looked increasingly uncomfortable. Vanessa, he whispered urgently. But she continued. She's always been like this. Needing attention. Dating dangerous men to feel important. Lena's fingers curled slightly into Jun Woo's coat. That coat felt heavier now. Not because of fabric, but because of meaning. For years, she had swallowed those words. Tonight, they tasted different. Because she wasn't alone. Jun Wu stepped forward slowly, positioning himself slightly ahead of Lena. Not blocking her. Not hiding her. Just standing in front of her like a shield. If you're going to speak, he said calmly, speak accurately. Vanessa let out a sharp laugh. Oh, should we talk about accuracy? About how you almost ruined her life? The hall stiffened. Lena inhaled sharply. That old accusation. The one everyone believed. That she was naive. That she was seduced by power. That she escaped something dangerous. Jun Wu didn't react immediately. Which was worse. Because when he finally spoke, his tone carried absolute control. She left me. Vanessa faltered slightly. She walked away on her own, he continued. No threats. No force. No chains. He looked at Lena briefly. Softly. You left because you were afraid of losing yourself. It wasn't a rebuke. It was understanding. Vanessa's expression hardened. You don't belong in rooms like this, she snapped at Lena. You never have. That was it. That was the wound. The one that had existed long before Jun Wu ever entered her life. The lifelong comparison. The silent ranking. Lena, second place. Vanessa, the prize. For a moment, Lena considered shrinking again. Apologizing. Leaving quietly. But something inside her shifted. Maybe it was the humiliation earlier. Maybe it was 6 months of rebuilding herself alone. Or maybe it was the fact that for the first time, someone stood beside her instead of judging her. She stepped out from behind Jun Wu. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. I never asked to compete with you. The room froze. Vanessa blinked. You think I wanted to be compared every day? To hear I wasn't as pretty, as accomplished, as easy to love? Their parents stood rigid, faces pale. Lena's voice trembled slightly, but she didn't stop. You didn't defend me earlier. Vanessa opened her mouth. Closed it. That speech, Lena continued, wasn't a joke. It was years of resentment dressed up as humor. Silence. The best man stared at the floor. The groom avoided eye contact. And then Jun Wu did something that sealed the night permanently. He stepped beside Lena, not in front. Beside. Equal height. Equal presence. Then, he gently took her hand. Not possessively. Deliberately. You speak of belonging, he said to Vanessa. Let me clarify something. His voice remained calm, but it carried an undeniable authority. She belongs wherever she chooses to stand.
A beat.
And if she stands next to me, the air tightened. Then that room belongs to her too. Gasps flickered across the hall. Vanessa scoffed weakly. You think power makes you right? Jun Wu tilted his head slightly. No. A pause. But it ensures no one treats her like she is wrong. That sentence hit harder than shouting ever could. Vanessa's composure began to crack. This is my wedding. And yet, he said evenly, you used it to humiliate your own sister. Her mother finally stepped forward. Enough. Both of you. This is embarrassing. Jun Woo's eyes moved to her. Embarrassing, he echoed softly, is allowing your daughter to be mocked in front of hundreds of people. Her mother fell silent. Because it was true. Lena's throat tightened again, but this time not from shame. From validation. She had never heard someone articulate her pain so clearly. Never seen someone defend her without asking her to quiet down first. Jun Wu turned slightly toward her. Do you want to leave? He asked quietly. Not commanding. Asking. The difference mattered. For the first time in years, she felt like she had a choice. She looked at her sister.
At the guests.
At the perfectly decorated hall that suddenly felt small. Then she looked at him. And nodded. Yes. He removed his coat from her shoulders briefly. And to everyone's surprise, he placed it back on her more securely. Then adjusted it carefully around her frame. A symbolic gesture. Protective.
Public.
Intentional. She is not a spectacle, he said to the room. She is mine to respect. The wording wasn't ownership. It was declaration. A boundary drawn in front of everyone. Vanessa's voice broke slightly. You're choosing him over your family? Lena met her gaze steadily. No, she replied softly. I'm choosing myself. The room went still. That sentence landed harder than anything else. Jun Wu didn't smirk. Didn't gloat. He simply guided her toward the exit again. No one stopped them. No one dared. Because now they understood. This wasn't a dramatic interruption. This was a public reckoning. And as the doors opened and the cool night air rushed in, Lena realized something powerful. For years, she thought walking away from Jun Wu made her strong. But tonight, calling him didn't make her weak. It made her brave enough to stop accepting less. And as they stepped outside together, the whispers behind them shifted. Not pity. Not mockery. Something closer to awe. Because when Kang Joon-Woo chose to stand beside someone publicly, the world adjusted its respect accordingly. The night outside the Grand Sapphire Hall was quieter than it had any right to be. Inside, the wedding was still happening. Music resumed. But it all sounded distant now, like a party happening in another life. The cool air brushed against Lena's skin as the doors shut behind them. For the first time that night, there was no audience. No expectations. Just her. And him. The black sedans waited nearby, engines humming softly. His men stood at a respectful distance, close enough to protect, far enough to give space. Jun Wu released her hand slowly. Not abruptly, but reluctantly. You don't have to make this bigger than it already is, she said quietly. Her voice had steadied, but her pulse hadn't. He studied her face under the streetlights. You think this is about size? He asked softly. She crossed her arms instinctively, a shield she'd built over years of being judged. I didn't call you to start a war. His eyes darkened slightly. I didn't come for war. A beat. I came because you asked. That simple answer did something to her chest. Because there was no accusation in it. No reminder of the 6 months she'd disappeared from his life. Only certainty. She looked away toward the city lights. I shouldn't have called you. He stepped closer, not crowding, but closing the emotional distance. And who else would you have called? She didn't answer, because they both knew. No one. Her friends would comfort her. Her family would gaslight her. But him? He would move. Without hesitation. That speech, she exhaled slowly. It wasn't even the worst thing they've said about me.
His jaw tightened.
Don't. She frowned slightly. Don't what? Don't normalize being humiliated. The steel in his voice surprised her. You think I'm weak? She asked softly. His expression shifted immediately. Sharp. Offended. I think you endure too much. The words landed heavier than anger ever could. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them carried 6 months of unfinished sentences. 6 months of nights she wondered if he was sleeping. 6 months of mornings he checked discreet reports about her business, just to know she was okay. She finally looked at him again. You didn't have to protect me like that. His gaze held hers. Yes, he said quietly. I did. Silence stretched. Why? She whispered. That was the real question. Not about tonight, but about everything. Why did a man feared across the city care so much about a woman his world deemed insignificant? He took another step forward, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. You left, he said calmly. Yes. You said you didn't want to live in my shadow. She nodded. You thought I would swallow you whole. Another nod. His voice lowered slightly. But you never asked if I would kneel. Her breath caught. I would have burned that world down for you. There was no drama in the statement. Just truth. The streetlight cast sharp shadows across his face. You built that world, she said. It's who you are. He tilted his head slightly. It's what I became to survive. He had never spoken about his past so plainly. She searched his face. You never told me that. You never asked. A painful, honest pause. When I was 22, I had nothing, he continued quietly. No family. No protection. No money. Her chest tightened. He had always seemed untouchable. But right now, he looked human. I learned quickly, he said. In this world, you either control the table or you're served on it. She felt the weight behind that statement. The sacrifices he never admitted. But when I met you, he continued, eyes returning to hers, you were the first person who looked at me like I wasn't something dangerous. Her throat burned. You made me feel normal, he said.
It wasn't romantic.
It was vulnerable. And vulnerability on a man like him was rare.
Sacred.
You were never dangerous to me, she whispered. His gaze softened slightly. Everyone else sees power. You saw the man. It was heavy with what could have been. Inside the hall, faint cheering echoed. Someone must have cut the cake. A celebration continuing without them. You think calling me tonight was weakness? He asked quietly. She hesitated. Yes. He stepped even closer now. Close enough that there was barely an inch between them.
No.
His voice lowered to a near whisper. It was trust. Her heart thudded. You didn't call for revenge, he continued. You didn't call for chaos. His fingers brushed gently against her wrist. You called because somewhere deep down, you knew I would never let anyone diminish you. Her lips parted slightly. And that, he said softly, means you still believe in me. The world felt smaller. Dangerously intimate. I tried to move on, she admitted. His jaw tightened just slightly. And there was no one who made me feel safe. He exhaled slowly, as if holding back something fierce. You are the only woman, he said carefully, who ever made me afraid. She blinked. Afraid? Yes. He didn't smile. I'm not afraid of guns. Or rivals. Or losing money. A pause. I was afraid of losing you. The truth vibrated between them. Unfiltered.
Raw.
She hadn't known that. She thought she was the only one who felt exposed. You don't lose me by loving me, she said softly. His eyes darkened. I lose you by not being enough. That confession almost undid her. This man who commanded fear across industries was worried about being enough. The night breeze lifted a strand of her hair. Without thinking, he tucked it behind her ear. Gentle. Controlled. Intimate. If I step back into your world, she said carefully. I need to know I won't disappear inside it. His hand hovered at her waist, not gripping. Waiting. You won't disappear. A beat. You will define it. Her pulse quickened. That's not how your world works. A faint, almost dangerous curve touched his lips.
It will.
For the first time tonight, she felt something shift inside her. Not fear.
Not shame.
Possibility. The car door behind him opened quietly, waiting. But he didn't move. I won't cage you, he said softly. I won't control you. His voice dropped further. But I will protect you. Her breath hitched. Even from your family? His expression hardened slightly. Especially from anyone who makes you question your worth. Silence. Then she asked the question that had haunted her for months. If I call you again, what happens? His gaze locked onto hers. This time, he said slowly, I won't let you walk away. Not a threat. A promise. Her heart pounded violently. Is that a warning? His fingers lightly brushed her waist now. Grounding. Claiming. It's a commitment. The air between them crackled. For 6 months, she had convinced herself leaving him was strength. But standing here now, she realized something terrifying and beautiful. She never stopped loving him. And he never stopped choosing her. From inside the hall, fireworks suddenly burst into the sky. Part of the wedding finale. Gold sparks lit up the darkness. Reflected in his eyes. You deserve more than survival, he said quietly. You deserve to stand where no one questions you. A tear slipped down her cheek. He wiped it away without hesitation. If you come with me tonight, he continued softly, it won't be to hide. A pause. It will be to begin again. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. This wasn't about revenge. This wasn't about power. This was about a choice. She looked back once at the glowing wedding hall, then back at him. And for the first time, she didn't see a Mafia boss. She saw the man who answered on the first ring. The fireworks from the wedding finale burst above the hall in gold and white explosions. From a distance, it looked like celebration. Up close, it felt like a distraction. Lena and Kang Joon-Woo hadn't entered the car yet. The door remained open behind him, waiting. But unfinished business hung in the air. The main doors to the hall suddenly pushed open again. Vanessa wasn't the one who came out this time. It was the groom's father, Mr. Huang, followed by 2 board members from Huang Construction, and Lena's parents. They approached carefully, like men walking toward a lion who hadn't decided whether he was hungry. Mr. Kang, Mr. Huang began, forcing a diplomatic smile. Perhaps we can speak privately. Jun Wu didn't turn fully toward him. His focus was still partially on Lena. Protective instinct never fully disengaged. Speak, he said calmly. Mr. Huang swallowed. It was an unfortunate misunderstanding. Weddings can be emotional. We don't want tonight's tension to affect future relationships. Future relationships. Business. Contracts. Money. There it was. Lena watched the subtle transformation in Jun Wu. The softness he showed her receded. Not gone. Just tucked away. The man the city feared stepped forward. Measured. Unhurried. You are worried about contracts, he said evenly. Mr. Huang's smile faltered. This is a business city. Emotions shouldn't interfere with. They interfered when your guests humiliated her. The words were not loud, but they sliced cleanly through the night. Mr. Huang stiffened. It was only a speech. It was a public degradation. Jun Wu corrected. The board members shifted nervously, because everyone there understood something dangerous. Huang Construction had been bidding for a major redevelopment contract, a project that required private backing that traced directly to Kang Joon-Woo's network. Jun Wu slid one hand into his pocket. Relaxed posture. Control dominance. Tell me, he continued calmly, if someone stood in this hall and mocked your daughter the same way, would you call it a speech? Mr. Huang said nothing. Silence can be an admission. Lena's mother finally stepped forward. This doesn't have to escalate, she said quickly. Families fight. We move on. Jun Wu turned his gaze to her. Sharp. Unyielding. You allowed it. 3 words. Her lips parted, closed again. You allowed your daughter to be reduced to a punchline. Lena felt a tremor in her chest. No one had ever confronted her parents like that.
Ever.
Her father cleared his throat awkwardly. We didn't want to cause a scene. Jun Woo's eyes hardened. So you let her carry it alone. The night grew quieter. Even the distant wedding music seemed to lower. Mr. Huang tried again. What exactly do you want? Finally. An honest question. Jun Wu stepped closer to him. Not aggressively, but close enough to make the man inhale sharply. I want understanding, he said. And I want correction. Mr. Huang blinked. Correction? Yes. His voice remained calm, terrifyingly calm. Tomorrow morning, your company will release a public statement. The board members stiffened, clarifying that the remarks made at tonight's event were inappropriate and not reflective of your values. Mr. Huang's face flushed. A public apology? That would draw attention. Good. The word landed like a hammer. You were comfortable drawing attention when she was mocked.
A beat.
You will be comfortable correcting it. The power dynamic had fully shifted. This was no longer about a wedding. It was about precedent. Lena stepped slightly closer to Jun Wu, not because she was afraid, but because she felt steady beside him. Mr. Huang's tone lowered. And if we refuse?
The air changed. Subtly.
Jun Woo's men, who had been standing at a distance, adjusted their posture slightly. Not threatening, just present. Jun Woo's gaze never left Mr. Huang's eyes. You won't. Another pause. But since you asked, he tilted his head slightly. The redevelopment contract you've been pursuing? It will disappear. A ripple of tension moved through the board members. And your pending loan approval, he continued evenly. It will stall. Mr. Huang's composure cracked. You can't. I can. No anger. No shouting. Just fact. And I will. The silence that followed felt suffocating. Because everyone standing there knew he wasn't bluffing. Lena's mother whispered urgently. This is too much. Jun Wu looked at her one last time. No, he said quietly. What was done to her was too much. A long pause. Then he turned to Lena. Soft again. Gentle again. Do you want them to apologize? He asked her. The question stunned everyone. Because despite everything, he still gave her the final decision. Her throat tightened. All her life, she had been told to endure quietly, to be the bigger person, to let it go. She looked at Mr. Huang, at her parents, at the hall glowing behind them. Then she said softly, yes. No hesitation. No trembling. Just truth. Jun Wu nodded once. Then it will be done. Mr. Huang exhaled shakily. We will issue the statement. And the best man? Jun Wu added calmly. A sharp glance passed between the board members. He will apologize directly, Mr. Huang said quickly. Lena's sister appeared at the doorway, watching in disbelief. Vanessa looked smaller now. Not because of her dress, but because power had shifted away from her. Jun Wu finally turned his body fully toward the car. This ends tonight, he said evenly. But if her name is used again for mockery, his eyes flicked back once. I will not request correction next time. No raised voice. No dramatic threat. Just certainty. And certainty was far more frightening. He opened the car door for Lena himself. A gesture small but deliberate. She paused before entering, looking up at him. You didn't have to do all that. His expression softened. Yes, he said quietly. I did. She studied his face. You could have crushed them. I'm not interested in crushing them.
A beat.
I'm interested in elevating you. That sentence settled deep in her chest. Behind them, Mr. Huang was already on the phone. Damage control. The board members whispering urgently. Her parents stood silent. For once, they had nothing to say. Lena slid into the car. Jun Wu closed the door gently, then walked around to the other side and entered. As the convoy pulled away, the wedding hall shrank in the rearview mirror. Not ruined, but humbled. Inside the car, silence stretched between them again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was full. full of reclaimed dignity, full of something rebuilding. Jun Wu looked at her in the dim interior lighting. "You will never stand alone in a room like that again," he said quietly. And for the first time in her life, she believed it. The city lights blurred past the tinted windows as the convoy drove away from the wedding hall. Inside the car, silence wrapped around them. But it wasn't empty. It was charged. Lena sat with Jun Woo's coat still around her shoulders. It smelled like him. Clean, dark, faintly woodsy. Familiar. Safe. Across from her, Kang Joon-Woo watched her quietly. Not studying her. Not analyzing. Just making sure she was steady. "You're quiet," he said finally. She let out a soft breath. "So are you." A faint curve touched his lips. Barely there. "I've said enough tonight." She turned toward him fully now. Streetlights flashed across his face in intervals of gold and shadow. "You always do that," she murmured. "Do what?" "Control the room without raising your voice." His gaze held hers. "It's easier than losing control." The way he said it told her that losing control was dangerous, not just for others but for him. The car slowed. They weren't heading toward his skyscraper office. They were climbing higher, the city below growing smaller. "Where are we going?" she asked softly. "Somewhere quiet." 20 minutes later, the convoy stopped at a private overlook above the city. A cliffside view. No tourists. No cameras. Just the night wind and distant lights shimmering like scattered stars. His men remained by the vehicles. Far enough to give privacy. Close enough to intervene if necessary. Jun Wu stepped out first. Walked around. Opened her door. Again, deliberate. Never assuming. She stepped out slowly. The wind lifted her hair. The coat wrapped tighter around her. They walked toward the edge together. Not touching yet. Just side by side. Below them, Seoul glowed endlessly. "This city thinks I own it," he said quietly. She glanced at him. "Don't you?" A small pause. "I control parts of it." He turned slightly toward her. "But it has never felt like mine." She studied him. "What does?" His eyes softened in a way very few people had ever seen. "You." Her breath caught. The wind grew louder. Or maybe her heartbeat did. "You shouldn't say things like that," she whispered.
Why?
"Because I might believe you." He stepped closer now, closing the space. "I don't say things I don't mean." That was true. Always had been. When he loved, it wasn't casual. When he decided, it wasn't temporary. "You terrified me," she admitted. His expression shifted slightly. "Because of my world?" "Yes and no." She swallowed. "You loved me like I was the only thing that mattered." A dangerous vulnerability flickered in his eyes. "You were." "That's what scared me," she whispered. The confession hung between them. "I didn't want to disappear inside someone else's intensity." He absorbed that quietly. Then nodded. "I understand." A beat passed. "But you misunderstood one thing." He stepped closer. So close now that warmth radiated between them. "I never wanted to consume you." His voice lowered. "I wanted to build around you." Her pulse raced. "I didn't know how to exist in your world," she said. "You weren't supposed to adapt to it." His hand lifted slowly, paused inches from her waist, waiting. When she didn't step back, his palms settled gently at her side. "You were supposed to change it." Her breath shook. "You think your men would accept that?" A faint, dangerous smile. "They accept what I decide. And if I disagree with you?" His eyes darkened slightly. "Then I listen." That surprised her. "You will listen?" "Yes." A small pause. "Especially to you." The vulnerability in that statement unraveled something inside her. "For 6 months," she said quietly, "I told myself you'd move on." His jaw tightened. "I didn't." "I know." That made him look at her sharply. "You checked on my boutique," she continued softly. "Anonymous investment. The lease issue. The supplier problem." Silence. "You knew." "I had suspicions." His hand dropped slightly from her waist, not in guilt, but in careful honesty. "I didn't interfere with your independence," he said calmly. "I removed obstacles that shouldn't have existed." Her eyes shimmered. You were still protecting me. I always will. The certainty in his voice wasn't possessive. It was foundational. The wind howled lightly across the cliff. She stepped closer on her own this time, eliminating the last inch between them. If I come back, she said softly, it won't be as a woman hiding behind you. His breathing deepened slightly. Good. It won't be as someone people whisper about. They won't. And it won't be temporary. His hand tightened slightly at her waist. Neither am I. The air felt electric now. I don't want to be rescued, she said. You weren't. A beat. You chose to call me. Her lips parted. You chose to come. Yes. He reached into his inner jacket pocket slowly. Her breath hitched. He wasn't a man of dramatic gestures. He was a man of final decisions. He pulled out a small velvet box. Her heart stopped. This is an impulse, he said quietly. I bought this 3 months ago. Shock flickered across her face. You thought I wasn't coming back, he murmured. The box opened. A ring. Not oversized. Not flashy. Elegant. Strong. Intentional. I don't kneel easily, he said calmly. But for you. And then.
He did.
Not dramatically. Not theatrically. But firmly. One knee to the ground. The wind caught her breath. Below them, the city glittered. I don't want you because you need protection, he said. I want you because you challenge me. A pause. You question me. Another. You make me better. His eyes locked onto hers. Marry me, Lena. Her vision blurred. You're a mafia boss, she whispered shakily. Yes. You make enemies. Yes. My life will never be quiet.
No.
The honesty made her laugh softly through tears. But it will be yours, he finished. Silence. The kind that defines futures. She looked at him. At the most feared man in the city. On one knee. Not conquered. Not softened. But choosing her publicly and privately. You once told me, she whispered, that if I ever called again, you wouldn't let me walk away. His gaze didn't waver. I meant it. Her answer came, without hesitation. Then don't. His breath left him slowly. Almost reverently. He slid the ring onto her finger. Perfect fit. He rose slowly to his full height. And, before she could overthink, he cupped her face. And kissed her. Not rough. Not claiming.
But deep. Certain.
A kiss that carried 6 months of distance and one undeniable truth. She was never weak for loving him. And he was never powerful without choosing her. When they finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. You are not the woman who is humiliated tonight, he said softly. You are the woman I chose. Below them, the city continued glowing. But up on that cliff, power had shifted. Not because a mafia boss threatened a wedding, but because a woman who had always been second place finally chose to stand first. And, beside her, stood a man who ruled empires, yet willingly knelt for love.